Hey guys, welcome to BreezusJuice, where you get your daily dose of me. This is a show where I talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. There is no limits on topics or subject matter. We can just do whatever the fuck we want. And today there are no special guests, it's just me and you, and the topic is serial killers. Okay, so what constitutes a serial killer, and why the interest in serial killers? A serial killer is typically a person who murders 3 or more people, usually in service of abnormal psychological gratification, with the murders taking place over more than a month and including a significant period of time between them. Now, a lot of people often confuse serial killers with mass murders, and the difference between a mass murder is a mass murder is the act of murdering a number of people, typically simultaneously or over a relatively short period of time, and in close geographic proximity. The FBI defines mass murder as murdering 4 or more persons during an event with no cooling off period between the murders. So an example would be the mass shooting that happened in Colorado during the screening of The Dark Knight. This guy, I think, killed around 12 people. Don't quote me on that. That's a mass murder. So he's not a serial killer, even though he killed numerous people. It happened all in one instance, so it's just a mass murder. A serial killer would be someone more famous, like Ted Bundy. This is someone who kills more than 3 people, and it's spaced out. So from his first victim to his last victim, there was like a few months, maybe a couple years in between. Like, I think his whole killing spree was like 4 years long. So if you just kill someone once a year for 4 years, then you're a serial killer, and that's how that works. And the fascination or interest, or the sudden interest for me in serial killers, is because I watch a lot of Netflix, and Netflix has been putting out a lot of like murder mysteries, crime dramas, like all that. And also I've been watching SVU, Special Victims Unit, that's Law and Order, for those of you who don't know, since that show's been out since forever. Probably I've been watching that show. So this is just something that I'm really interested in, like why they kill and who they target, and to see if there's anything really behind it, like what really drives them to do these crimes. I think the obvious answer would be that they have some sort of mental issue. They're not well, and I think that's the excuse that we give most people. Honestly, it's fucked up. In any way that you put it, any twist and turn, none of their victims deserve to lose their life. None of them. Now, personally, I don't believe man should decide who lives or dies. That shouldn't be up to us. I mean, how could you decide if someone's life means more than another person's, and how could you decide when it's time to take someone's life? I feel like that's such a heavy weight on your shoulders and burden and all that. And I mean, that goes for punishing serial killers as well. Like, I don't believe that any of them should have had their life taken from them, only because their life is just as precious and just as special as anyone else's. I do believe, however, that they could have been tortured for the rest of their life, or they could have just been put in that room, that 23-1 I've heard about. And that's where, like, I think you're just in this cell with no windows or anything for 23 hours a day, and you only get to go out for like 1 hour a day. I feel like that would drive a person mad. I mean, these serial killers are obviously already mad, but it would drive them way beyond that. And I feel like that is justifiable punishment. Something that takes away their humanity. Something that just fucks them up even more, or makes them think about it in loops and loops, that they killed someone. Now, that's acceptable punishment if you ask me. So I wanted to kind of just start with Ted Bundy. He's in, I believe, the top 3 serial killers in America as, like, number of victims that he has. He's confessed to about, I believe, 35, 36 victims, but we are led to believe that he has victims in the hundreds. I personally believe this because he was a compulsive liar and an actor. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix, but it gives us a deeper view into who he was as a person and as a serial killer. I think more than we've known before. In the series, the Ted Bundy tapes, he is speaking in third person, describing his crimes to a T, describing the thought process of said serial killer. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't know how serial killers think, and I don't think that if I was on record that I could even put myself in their shoes. I don't have that capacity. But he did. And that just makes me believe even more that he's the one who killed these ladies. Okay, so Ted Bundy killed these people. He started in Washington. And what's crazy to me is that he almost got away with it. He almost did. Like, the state of Washington did not suspect him whatsoever until his girlfriend called in. Now, this is crazy because this is your significant other. Someone who you've shown no signs of being, like, crazy or a serial killer or having compulsive behaviors, who's only ever seen you as normal. But they call in to the police station, his girlfriend did, and she says, I think this could be my Ted. Isn't that wild that your girlfriend, like, snitches you out, or your boyfriend? So I want you guys to just, like, think about the person that you're dating now, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner was a serial killer. Like, if you just found out, or if, like, if you saw their image on the news and said their nickname, would you believe it? Do you think that your significant other had the power to kill people? In the back of my mind, I believe that yes, everyone could be a serial killer. I think that's just because I'm a little paranoid and I probably smoke a little bit too much weed. But yeah, every single person that I've dated, I believe that they could kill someone. And now, does that make me attracted to crazy people? I don't think so. I just think that the human mind is very weird. Very intense. And we never know. They could just be putting on a facade. Hell, my mom could have been a serial killer. That's wild. That's so wild. Now, the next question I ask you guys is, if your significant other did turn out to be a serial killer, would you turn them in? Would you call in? Would you be brave enough to call in and say, hey, I think that this is my boyfriend. I think this is my girlfriend. I think this is my partner. Would you find that as betrayal? Or would you find that as you doing the right thing? Now, personally, I wouldn't be able to turn them in because I'm not a snitch. No, I'm just joking. I could totally turn them in because that's fucked up. I think that I would just be really fucked up if it turned out that the person that I was seeing, dating, fucking, whatever, ended up being a person who took pleasure in killing people or kill people for sport. That would really fuck me up because I would probably blame myself for, like, how did I not see this? How did I not see any of these red flags? How did I let this go on? But of course, it's not your fault. It's never your fault. It's the person's fault. It's in their mind. You can never put anyone else's actions on yourself. And I've learned that more than just, serial killers and all that. You can never do that. Don't ever put anyone else's actions on yourself. Don't ever take it personally because it wasn't you. And serial killers in general are really good at hiding it from their significant others. And they usually spare their significant others. With few cases that they actually do kill their significant others, usually they spare the significant others to keep on this facade. Same goes with, like, child molesters, pedophiles, rapists. They tend to spare the people that they love, if they're capable of love. A small side note, Ted Bundy was fucking ugly. I don't know how people say he's attractive. I think he was just probably, and they say for his time period, I think that's still false. And you got all these beautiful people out here, people of color, with lips. That's worked up. But this nigga was ugly as fuck. Like, hideous. Like, no cuteness in him. I think he was just given this leeway because he was white, if we're gonna be honest. I think that's why they let him escape prison twice. And I say let him because there's no way, honestly. If someone's suspected of killing someone, I know for a fact that the government has the power to kill them or to put them down. So they're letting this nigga run free because he's white and seems educated and has charisma. Now, that's the fucked up part. I know for a fact that if this was a black man or Mexican man or any other man who've done this, he probably would have been killed within the first year or two of them suspecting him. Most serial killers in America are white. I'm just going to put that out there. They are white. I've done a lot of research on this. And they typically prey on these three groups. Girls and women, boys and men, and then also the gays. More specifically, a lot of serial killers target prostitutes, sex workers, gay men, and then young boys and young girls. What I don't understand is that you often hear that, rapists, serial killers, all these people target people because of a childhood trauma or a past trauma or something that's happened in their life that's repressed, and that they take it out in the future or when they're older. What I don't understand, per se, is where the type of victim comes in. So when in your childhood did a prostitute ever hurt you or harm you, or like, when did a prostitute ever come to you and slap the shit out of you and that makes you want to go be prostitutes when you're older? When did a gay man ever come into your life and I paused because I had like an epiphany when I was saying that. Maybe like, some people could have been molested by their uncles and brothers, and I think that could have spurred like the gay thing. That's a little bit more understanding. But like little girls and little boys, I don't understand where that comes from. And I'm not saying I understand like the gay thing is when they're saying they kill gay people. Fuck no. I'm saying it's more understandable because like I guess you could kind of correlate that in your head if you were touched when you were younger. But when did a little girl hurt you or a little boy? And I'm saying that in the instance of like Jeffrey Dahmer or John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy is a guy who lived, I believe, in Chicago or Illinois. I'm just going to say the whole state because I don't know what city. And he killed little boys, targeted them specifically. We believe that he molested them. And then he buried them in the crawl space of his home. In his own home. So I don't know if you guys know what a crawl space is or if you guys have a house with a crawl space, but it's usually like if you ever had someone come over to like install cable or had to rewire something, they usually ask like, where's the crawl space? And the crawl space is no bigger than 3 feet like wide or in length, 3 feet in length, and a certain depth or whatever. It's super small. Like you literally have to be on your hands and knees to go through it, and even then your body's probably touching the entirety, like the perimeter of the crawl space. He hid, I think, 18 bodies in his crawl space. Sick. Imagine going to someone's house and you're walking on the floor and then you kind of hear like something underneath, like a bone break or something. You're like, you just ignore it and keep walking. Like, of course you don't think there's 18 bodies underneath someone's house. My thing is, how did no one smell that? Like, how did he get the smell out to where his neighbors couldn't smell these bodies rotting, these corpses rotting? His visitors, did he have any visitors? Did they suspect anything? And if not, why didn't they turn him in? And I think that goes along with if it's being someone that you know. I feel like a lot of serial killers, their family probably suspects something. You can't tell me you don't suspect anything, I think it's just more of like a pride thing or an ego thing. Like, there's no way that my friend, there's no way that my son, there's no way that my daughter, like, yeah, the fuck there is a way. Everyone's not perfect. Some people are fucked up. And I think, we just have to acknowledge that. And they're not going to turn themselves in, so you have to be the bigger. And even if you just suspect something, suspect a little bit, suspect them killing someone, I think that you should not dig deeper yourself, but definitely get someone involved. Tell them the signs and see what you should do. Never go after someone alone. And I say that because if you think about it, if you suspect someone that you know or love, one of your loved ones, is crazy or is killing people, imagine if they found out that you knew. So never go after someone alone because you're probably going to be next if they find out. Yeah, that's just bad all over. And a lot of these serial killers, they have other problems. Like, they rape people too. They get pleasure from having sex with bodies after they're dead, and that's called necrophilia. It's sick if you ask me. They like to sodomize. They take pictures. They usually keep little artifacts, like prizes from their victims, whether that be a lock of hair or a picture of the actual dead body or a toe or teeth or whatever it may be. So if you find a box of trophies, like in another Netflix show, you be calm, maybe take a picture of it, and then go to the authorities immediately. Now, I know I just brought up You. That's another Netflix show that I've been watching. I think a lot of my friends have watched this show too. This show is wild. And Joe, one of the main star in You, he's a serial killer. That's considered a serial killer because he killed 3 people over a span of, over a month span of time. So they happen in different instances, and he keeps doing it. For those of you who haven't seen You, I do apologize for ruining it, but also, like, you should have probably already seen it. So that's on you. It's on you. So in this particular show, this guy Joe becomes immediately obsessed with a girl that he just met. Immediately obsessed. Do I think that this is based off real life? Yes. Because all the serial killers that we know of this is real life. Ted Bundy's real life. John Wayne Gacy's real life. Jeffrey Dahmer is real life. Dean Corll's real life. Patrick Carey is real life. Gary Ridgway is real life. Samuel Little. I'll explain these other people, but their crimes are crazy too. So in this show, You becomes immediately obsessed with this girl, and he decides to go to her house, finds her on social media, which is we are very connected through social media, and I feel like that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing only when there's creeps out there, which there are a lot of creeps and weird people, but for the most part, I feel like it's a good thing. It's a good tool. I feel like social networking serves so many purposes in life. So many. And keeps you just connected. I mean, you could also be off the grid. You don't have to be connected. It goes both ways. But I mean, why not? Now, he finds her on social media, finds her address, goes to her house, and continues to stalk her from there. He justifies his actions by saying that the people that he kills from her, like out of this girl's life, her name is Beck, that he takes from Beck's life are toxic to her. But all the while he's killing people, isn't he toxic to her too? If he has the power to take away her loved ones, no matter how toxic they are, she chooses to keep them in her life. Wouldn't you consider yourself toxic too? And then that always boggles me because a lot of my friends side with Joe. Think that he's not crazy. Like, oh, it's justified because of this reason or this reason. I'm like, no, that's the point of the story. They're trying to put you inside the serial killer's mind. And now that you're there, what are you deciding? Oh, you're on the serial killer's side? Does that make you crazy? I think it's because Joe, in particular, is a handsome man. And people just tend to side with people who are attractive. And I feel like that's wild in itself. That's a wild concept. That's like if Beyonce was a serial killer. Like, would we all defend her? Probably. I probably would. And that's crazy to me. It's because she's one of our favorites, right? So maybe that connects back with Ted Bundy and how he got away with it. He was so charismatic, egocentric, and he was very manipulative with his words. And that's probably how he got away with it for so long. They say he had 4 active years between 1974 and 1978. But we can't be sure. Like I said, they suspect that his victims are in the hundreds, so we don't know really when he started. When he just probably started slipping up. We know that when he got to Florida and he was at the Chi Omega house, he slipped up a bit. He let himself get carried away and killed 3 people in one night. Or 1 person, the other 2 are very badly injured and bludgeoned, and you probably won't be able to recognize them now. But they're probably dead now in real life, because that was like 40 years ago. But this just brings me to another topic or question, is why do we romanticize serial killers? And is it because they're attractive, or because we only think that these things happen on TV, that it's not real? Like, can we separate reality from fiction? Is it possible? Just because someone's attractive doesn't mean that they're incapable of violent acts and crimes. And just because someone's not attractive doesn't mean that they are. Just because someone has a great personality doesn't excuse them. I mean, a lot of us have different faces and different hats, we call them, that we wear. But I know a lot of people who are very violent people, and they just hide it really well. Really well. And I think that's why we don't suspect them. Which it's just really fucked up because I feel like that's just a double standard in how attractive you are and how smart you are and just what it will take for someone to believe you without actual evidence. This makes me believe that if you were attractive enough that you could hide in plain sight, that you could kill people probably on the daily and no one would ever suspect you because, oh, I'm pretty and I'm a college graduate and I have a degree in this and that. And no, I think we should all be held to the same level. We should start at a baseline, and no matter what you've accomplished or achieved, there's certain things like mental health and past traumas that should be taken into account. Definitely. And that's why I think that we romanticize serial killers, because there's a sort of thrill, a rush in knowing what they did or suspecting what they did, but also not having this blurry line because of what they look like or what they've accomplished. And so you almost feel bad for the serial killer, and you almost just want to justify, if they are guilty, why they did it. You find yourself taking their side and rooting for them, whether they're guilty or not. I know that I had to catch myself a few times when I was watching this Netflix show, You, because I was on his side a few times too many. And I had to stop and realize, like, wait, no, he's still the bad guy. I know we're inside of his mind, so we know why he's thinking these things, but we also have to stop and realize that these things are wrong. These are terribly wrong. And that never justifies taking someone's life. Ever. I think this is also why we ignore red flags, because of the rooting for them, because of the romanticism, because of all this. So we end up ignoring these red flags, like, oh, he went out for a walk at 3 a.m. and didn't get back till 6. Oh, he's probably just clearing his mind, like we make excuses for these serial killers. I know that sounded kind of crazy, but no, that's what really happens in real life. And I think what's so scary about Ted Bundy versus Joe from You is that we know that Joe from You is fiction, right? But Ted Bundy's real. These people are real. John Wayne Gacy is real. That really happened in real life. He killed young boys. Ted Bundy beat women to death and then raped their dead bodies. That was real. That's real life. And I feel like that's extremely scary to think about, especially as a woman. Like, I could have been one of his victims easily. Most of his victims are in my age range. College students. Attractive. Okay, I did just, make my head big right there. But, yeah, like, that's crazy. And I believe that the You from Netflix story could be real, too. Who's saying that it couldn't? People go missing every day. There's so many girls who go missing every single day. So many boys who go missing every single day. With no witnesses. There's no evidence. There's no anything. They're just gone. Like that. Like vanish. And to me, as a young woman, that's one of the scariest things I could live with. I live in California, in LA County to be exact, but this is one of the scariest things that I could imagine. I mean, just as a young woman in general, like, we're told to, like, not go out alone, not walk to our cars alone, make sure that we have someone. Like, this is constantly drilled into our heads. And I think that it should kind of be drilled into everyone's heads, whether you're a boy or a girl, you identify as whatever. I know that us ladies and those who identify as such go through a lot more. Like, there's a lot more racing through my mind than my guy friend's mind when we leave a club at night. So if I'm somewhere, anywhere, in 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm terrified because I know that the parts of my body that certain people see can make them do crazy things. Now, that's a reality for so many of us. We check our back seats before getting into our cars. I click my lock multiple times just to let whoever's around know that I'm going to my car. Like, that there's someone, there's extremes, I don't even want to leave someone's house too late for fear of, being attacked or being kidnapped, or because, what I said, so many girls are going missing and so much of whatever. I feel like I constantly want someone, a male friend, to like walk me to my car, and it's not because I think they're stronger than me or because they're smarter than me or because, no, it's just because it's like an intimidation factor for someone who might be after me, you know, or might be after any of us. And what's crazy is that I feel like a lot of my male friends don't have these same thought processes. They aren't thinking of checking their back seat. They aren't thinking of, oh, let me go get my other friend from the house and we can walk to the car together. We can walk to the store. Let me just stop and rewind. I had a guy friend who said that he always walks, to 7-Eleven like at 1 a.m. Like it was normal. Like, oh yeah, I just exercise and go to 7-Eleven. I'm like, what? In my head, that's crazy. I would never walk to a corner store, liquor store, 7-Eleven at 1 a.m. by myself for exercise, for whatever, to go get water. Never. Ever. If it was 2 blocks away, no. It doesn't matter. I'd hop in my car, I'd go, and then even then, like, there would still be some caution, like, am I really gonna go this late, And I feel like, why is it only drilled into young women's minds? Is the world so sick? Are men so sick? To where it's only cautious for us? None of my guy friends that I know have been told these things when they're growing up. And that goes for clothing you wear or anything. I feel like women are just victims in general. And again, that's scary. What's scary is me doing all this research for this particular podcast. And I do a lot of research really late at night because I stay up really late at night, like till 5 a.m. a lot of the times. And when my house is completely quiet, when everyone is asleep, it's terrifying to research these people that kill women for nothing. There's no rhyme or reason to why they chose these victims. It's not like the victims are rapists themselves or they robbed a bank or, it's not like they're targeting the bad guys. They're usually targeting these innocent people. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, who's accountable and eats his victims, and he targeted young boys and men. And I don't think a 12-year-old boy, one of his victims could have committed any sort of heinous crimes. I don't. And to me, it's sick because of so many girls and guys who are saying like, oh, Ted Bundy was innocent or this or this. I'm like, he's the same person as Jeffrey Dahmer. He's the same person as John Wayne Gacy. He's the same person as Samuel Little. They're all the same. So to look at one and not see a killer is to look at all of them and not see a killer, and I don't understand that. I can't fathom that. Like, I'm just not capable at all. I think the only thing really getting me through this or got me through this research in the wee hours of the night is knowing that these people are dead, the ones that I'm researching. And actually not all of them. A lot of them are still on death row. They're waiting to die. So I think just knowing that a lot of them are dead. Like, I know I said that I don't feel like anyone's life should be taken. Like, that's not any decisions, but it does give me some peace knowing that someone who's killed 50 people, innocent people, is dead. Not the fact that we took their life or that they were killed in prison, waiting for death, but just knowing that they can't commit the crimes anymore. They can't kill anyone else. That some family doesn't have to grieve for a loved one because of a crazy person.